the rose and the thorns? Because they're all one.
Yes, they're simply being. Yeah. Naturally being, fragrant and thorny, prickly and sweet. And this message is prickly and sweet, both, if it's really heard. To the separate self, the possibility that me is an illusion, that me is a piece of software that it doesn't need, and that all its precious stories and dramas and sadnesses and beautiful love affairs are simply something that never was, is terrifying and very confronting. The separate self prefers to be distracted by fairy tales and prefers to have something it can do to get better or to learn. And this message can't be learned, it can't be understood, but in meeting the questions that come from hearing this stark message, perhaps there is the possibility that everything is seen through. Me can collapse completely. And then all there is an endless celebration of aliveness for nobody. So we can talk about this. It might be that in what you've just heard there is threat, or it might be that in what you've just heard there is an absolute resonance, or something in between, and it really doesn't matter. None of that is right or wrong. Sometimes hearing this message, me begins to fight very intensely, and will find all sorts of reasons why what I'm saying is not true. And those questions or statements are very welcome. Sometimes in the trying to work out what's being shared here, me just gives up, the mind gives up, and something else happens.
I find that the more often I hear this message, the easier it becomes, the more simple it becomes. And as I've been sitting here now, I've just been feeling something sort of crumbling away, in a good sense. It's I know it's a metaphor that people often use, but it actually has a sort of bodily sense of it, of something like a clay, something around the outside of me cracking and falling off, and revealing something different inside, something more light, and yeah, it feels very good.
And that's happening for nobody.
Yeah, it feels like it's happening for me, but that's, I'm content with that sense for the moment.
Yeah, contentment is what's happening for nobody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to be here, and it just resonates completely with me, what you're saying. And I was thinking about what my outcome for today would be as I was driving here, and I just at this time I so long to let go and rest in being, and I'm not resting in, I don't feel at rest in myself, and
You are, however, resting in being
even
right now.
okay. Well, right now I am resting in being. But I want to talk about the other stuff.
So that wanting perhaps there's an investment in finding something out or solving,
Yeah,
and actually life is this. It's not a task.
yeah,
There isn't a you to solve. There isn't a you to make feel better. There's simply sensational life, which sometimes is a dullness, sometimes it's a discomfort or an itch, sometimes it's just sitting.
So when I'm feeling stressed and
There's stress happening
yeah, and
for nobody. Without cause.
yes,
There isn't a story.
I find it hard to be in stress and anxiety and projection, and have a sense of this resting and being at the same time.
So in boundless freedom, nothing is excluded or compared. So the mind there is busy trying to work it out, when actually all there is sensational life without cause. In being. The mind is an aspect of being, and so is projection. And it ain't the whole story. The mind loves to fixate in order to solve something or make the body feel better, when actually inevitably the opposite happens, because the mind is a tyrant in a way. So all of that can go on. What if it meant nothing? What if there's just warmth and breath coming in and out of the body?
I think because recently I've been in some, not constantly, but there have been moments when I've been in sort of excruciating projection, and it feels hideous, and then it dissolves, and it dissolves in its own time, sort of unexpectedly, and then the next day there it is again, or whatever.
So that's just what's happening when
Yes.
it's happening.
Yes.
And there are also many other things happening all at the same time.
Yeah.
But there might be an apparent fixation on making the story continue. Because obviously me can't exist without its stories. The stories fuel the identity. doesn't mean that stories don't apparently happen. Of course they do. But in boundless freedom, nothing is denied and nothing is seen as important. We can make up importance, and of course we do. And the question might be, is there any choice about what the mind's doing?
Yeah.
And is it worth getting into a fight with it or resisting it? Perhaps not. Perhaps the birds are singing. Projection is an inevitable function of a separate self. It's what the separate self uses to keep itself separate. When actually that can be dissolved in a moment, simply with there might be an apparent choice to speak or not. There might simply be a seeing that this is it, this is the invitation, this mind to just let go, to just, nobody can let go, but to simply, there is a relaxation in that,
Yeah.
put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when it's happening, I don't feel I can do anything about it. It's just there.
Oh, you don't need to.
No.
You don't exist. There's just a war going on.
Yeah.
And it's neither right nor wrong, it's what's happening. And me will fight to the bitter end to survive. It will use anything. Me is a user. And all there is unconditional love. Singing. Tears are aliveness. They're simple. So there's just sitting on a chair. There's just birdsong. There's just a sparkle in an eye. There's light. There's the warmth of a mug. And that's all there is. The mind's stories are immensely complicated. And that's okay. It's part of what's happening, but it's never the wholeness of what's happening.